Hello and welcome back to the Water Trio podcast. It's Alicia Youssef and I'm here with the lovely Cassandra and Kelly to bring you all the juice of the week starting the 10th of June. It's quite a busy week in the sky, so who wants to kick off first? What are we going to be talking about this week? I think it's me, actually.
Actually, Alicia, you might be leading the charge this week with your aspect at the start of the week.
I'm the one bringing the good news. Well, kind of the good news. Yes, I'm the one looking at the juicy Sun Jupiter. So this is on the 11th of June here in Australia. Where is it over there?
Monday the 10th in Canada and the States, Sun opposite Jupiter.
So, yeah, we're kicking off the week with a spotlight on Jupiter in Sagittarius and really having a look at what things have been in the pipeline with Jupiter. Like, I love the Sun and Jupiter together. It's like the two kings meeting in the sky. It's an opposition, so they might be trying to find joint projects together that are a bit tricky. You know, we've got the Sun in Gemini, who's focusing on all the small bits, all the small details. He's kind of trying to gather all the information and understand it, but then he can pass it on to Jupiter, who can disseminate things and draw it towards the bigger picture. There is just, I think it's a really light point in the month, a bright point in the month, and it offers us a chance to explore more this whole ongoing Jupiter and Sagittarius picture that's been going on for the whole year, since late last year. So it's a time to really have a look at those projects, see where you're at. It's the midpoint, really. What is possible with all of this, and how can you actually put more energy, more focus, more light into those expansive, winging it ideals that you may have been working on. With all the kind of Mars in Cancer, it just feels like a bit of relief in all of that. What about you gals? You got any thoughts about this?
Cass?
Yeah, I mean, the Sun and Jupiter, this definitely feels to me there's a stepping out or a stepping forward feel with this. We've got the Sun in Gemini, Jupiter and Sag, both yang positions, both yang planets. So, we've got, tender Mars and Cancer getting a little bit beaten up this week. And so this is, as you said, Alicia, like that ray of light or ray of sunshine. And the Sun and Jupiter, it's a bit of a stepping out, being seen, or a display of confidence or support that you receive or that you get from somebody else as well, with Jupiter in the mix there. So it's a beautiful way to start the week. It's opposition. I don't necessarily think that is a tricky or negative thing in any way. It might be just a little bit trying to find that balance between fact, opinion. But again, it's about stepping out, stepping forward. There's lightness here. There is a sense of optimism or exuberance. The tendency perhaps to overdo it as well is possible there as well. What are your thoughts, Kel?
Yeah, I think the overdoing it is something that I've really got my eye on here. They're definitely both positive planets, the Sun and Jupiter together, but the idea of them pulling or being at, opposite ends of something does feel a little bit like being pulled in different directions at the same time. So there's sort of a stretched thin. I think there's a potential to be a little bit overwhelmed because maybe you've bitten off more than you can actually chew, or, that other lovely saying, your eyes are bigger than your tummy, which is a problem that I have all the time, both at the food table and also in life in general, where I just get so excited. So Jupiter, I'm like, yes, yes, yes. And then my husband's often like, how are you actually going to do all that? And I'm like, I'm not sure, but I'm up for the challenge. And I think that's what this week sort of starts off feeling like, is maybe a little bit of an excess of that self-confidence or self-belief. They say in business you should always under-promise and over-deliver, but I think aspects like this Sun-Jupiter one can have a tendency to over-promise and under-deliver. So it's a little bit of like you're going to feel so excited. You're going to have maybe some great offers, or you're going to have two wonderful things happening that you said yes to, and then you realize they're on at exactly the same time. And so it's that idea of maybe having to make some choices, or, having a lot of balls in the air all at once.
100%. Yeah. And we're all dressed for the Jupiter occasion this week.
We are.
We've got our kind of
light colours.
Yes,
which
exactly.
is lovely.
So, we don't actually plan our wardrobe for these episodes.
No, we just kind of show up.
We wing it. So definitely that overstretching, overdoing. Yeah, for sure.
And one thing I forgot to mention as well was that because next week, basically Jupiter and Neptune are coming up to square. That will perfect next week, but the sun is highlighting this energy already this week because it's the day before the sun squares Neptune, and then it's going to square Jupiter, and it's almost like it's acting as a bridge between the two, which really hazes the boundaries on all of this, that overdoing it that you're talking about, Kelly. It's like you really can't see the end point. So it's like I can do all the things. I absolutely can. And these are my big visions and the big dreams I'm going to have, and I'm going to pour all my energy into that, and then it'll be like, bang. Okay, I've got no energy left. Like that balloon that kind of, when you blow a balloon up and then you let it go. My kids love doing that. That's their favorite thing, to just watch it like fly around the room. And it feels like that's the potential with this. It's like it can get just totally dispersed with that sun in Gemini energy too. So yeah, I kind of feel that, Neptune in the mix there can really just haze the boundaries on all of this and make us go beyond without having an anchor.
For sure. Yeah, it definitely doesn't have that grounded feeling, does it?
No, not at all.
No. Cool. So yeah, that's it's a good start to the week. Was there anything else we should explore there? I can't remember if we all chatted about it. I feel like we did.
There's just so much, it's Jupiter in Sag,
Yeah.
And the sun this is something that only happens once a year too. So it is a bit of a mark your diary kind of day. And I think sometimes too, there is an invitation to say yes to something. So, and it's actually my yes month too. So June is my yes month. We might be sort of doing the Sun in Gemini thing, thinking about it or trying to analyze or get more information. It's a little bit of a winging it, throw caution to the wind, say yes, work out details later, which is kind of the way that, both Kelly and I operate most of the time.
Pretty much. Pretty much, for sure. There's a lot of excitement, a lot of confidence, and sometimes when Jupiter's really activated, there's a lot that you want to say yes to. Like there is that flood of great offers or opportunities. The trick I find with Jupiter is to think about not just what's a great opportunity, but to try and find that sweet spot between it's the right opportunity for you at the right time. It's got to be that combination of just not just this is amazing. Is this the right time for you to do that thing? And sometimes that selectiveness can help manage that tendency to overwhelm or get spread really thin.
Yeah, totally. Good point, Kel. And I find for me, because I can say yes to things as well with the Aries rising, I find that I just don't have the energy left to actually do things properly. So I'd much rather do a few things really well than spread myself too thin over a whole heap of things.
Yeah, it's keeping in mind the long game and the short game.
Yeah. And I guess the key with the Sun Jupiter at the start of this week, it's very much about juggling and trying to balance and maybe being spread a little more thin than usual. It's a big aspect, but it will just be a few days and then you'll get the balls back under control kind of thing.
Oh, yeah, definitely with the next aspect.
Yes. Which I think might be you, Cass.
Mars Saturn.
Yeah.
Oh, it's my turn. Yeah.
To shake things up a little bit.
Just to, add to the opposition flavor. So where we've got this, overabundance of possibility, confidence, opportunity, now we've got to really make some sort of discerning choices towards the end of the week under the Mars-Saturn opposition. And when I think about Mars and Saturn working together like this, I get this sort of undertaking, like taking this monumental undertaking, and there's this big thing, Saturn and Capricorn, and what do I have to do in the minutiae or in the everyday that gets me there, the Mars piece. And so I know I've said this on the show before, it is the what you want now versus what you want most. And that seesaw of Cancer Capricorn is going to highlight that. The opposition sort of highlights that. And also the opportunity to explore the options. Okay, so if I do this thing and it leads to that thing, or if I don't do this thing, what other thing could come up? And it's playing that strategic long game in the short-term game of Mars. And it's this oppositions, you have to give a little bit to get a little bit. And I often describe when I'm teaching about oppositions, it's like a seesaw when they're perfectly balanced. It sounds good in theory, but no one's going anywhere. So there is this sense of having to push and shove until you feel that there is some level of balance there. So the Mars-Saturn can also feel like, one planet wants to go fast and the other planet wants to go slow, and you might be chomping at the bit to go in one direction, but the walls are kind of pushing back on you in another way, or it might have to be, okay, you have to put that pedal to the metal and just grind through something, maybe a little bit, not so great in the short term, Mars in Cancer, but the long term Saturn in Capricorn is the prize at the end. So having to just kind of, grin and bear it, so to speak. What do your girls thought? What do you girls think?
Well, I think with Mars Saturn, it's a little bit like, you're powering along and you slam into the brick wall or the boulder kind of thing. Mars and Saturn do have a different pacing. They have different priorities. Saturn is ultimately about trying to kind of do quality control on things that are going to last, and Mars can be a little bit slash and burn. And so there is a lot of tension, I think, in this aspect between, do you get caught up in just doing immediate short-term things, or are you trying to put energy into a longer-term project and finding yourself getting interrupted or even dealing with disruptions? The more, if you like, psychological take on Mars and Saturn, it's like where that desire to act meets fear or worry or concern about, will you be good enough? Will you be able to do it? Can you get it done? So I think that we'll perhaps be dealing with some of our own insecurities or fears, or that inner voice of caution, if you like. It can be there to protect you, but it can also be there. Sometimes it keeps you small when really you should push forward. So it is going to be quite the internal tug of war, I think, and probably that idea in terms of what we're experiencing, meeting some resistance or hitting a bit of a blockage that may feel like it's going to be permanent, but is probably more temporary than you think, even though it is going to slow you down at the time. How do you see this one, Leish?
Yeah, I really agree with what you've both been saying. I think as well that, with Mars and Saturn together, it's almost like putting the traces on a runaway horse. It can really actually, when it's focused and put in one direction, really pull strongly, as long as it's given the focus point where it needs to go. So there's a lot, focus, strength, disciplined effort, those kind of words with this. I mean, Mars is in Cancer. It's definitely not its happy place. And we were talking a lot, was it last week or the week before, about the focus on emotions here. So my feeling is that, those emotions that may be buried underneath us, or those things that we're holding back in ourselves, or we're feeling a bit protective and defensive towards, may be linking into our fears, may be linking into our worries. They may be the things that are holding us back. So it's almost like we need to keep opening up, keep putting that action into being compassionate with ourselves, looking at our emotions, processing our emotions, feeling our emotions. And when those are shed or cut or dried out, that is when we're able to really move forward into the long-term plan, see that big picture and move forward to it. I mean, you know, at the same time that Mars is with Saturn, it's also highlighting the North Node in Cancer. So I feel like there is the need to look at the future and see what we're filling up in our lives and, you know, do that in a very Cancerian way. So it is about the sensitivity, the intuition, the compassion and the care, those things that protect. So definitely it adds even more to this need for the long term. But yeah, I feel like some of the answers with this really do lie within. They lie in the feeling world and the intuitive world. So it's almost like it's like logic versus intuition. And it's finding that balance between the two. Let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater, but actually find how we can get both working together, head, heart kind of stuff. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
Cool. Yeah, it's definitely going to be a juicy sort of end to the work week. Do you have any beautiful analogies for this one, Cass?
Me and my Mars Saturn.
I know.
I think I'm bereft of insight on this one.
Yeah.
Nothing that I haven't said before.
I mean, if
The
it
picture
actually...
the picture I'm getting in my head, my daughter loves this God, I can't speak, movie called Spirit, which is about a horse, a stallion that lives in the Cameroon. It's quite old, and it's free, but then it keeps getting caught. First it gets caught and tried to put in the army, and then it gets free, but a Native American Indian helps it escape, and then it gets caught and held with them. And it just wants to be free. It just wants to be out there. And at the end, it's kind of put into a train of horses that are trying to pull this steam train up a hill. And this is just that energy that I could feel, like the strength of these horses working together are actually able to pull this really piece of heavy machinery up so that they can bridge these mountains, you know, get across, and the focused strength of this that allows for a long term, you know, later on it'll be a train that's able to go over the mountains. That's the picture I'm getting, if that helps with the analogy piece.
Yeah, it's just this fear, the thing, you know, feel the fear and push forward anyway. Just kind of, you know, attack that thing that you're avoiding, or, you know, overcome that challenge that might sort of feel like it's too much or too hard, or, you know, a little bit fearful around it. And, you know, they say that courage is feeling that fear and taking action anyway. So, you know, Mars in Cancer could potentially be that like Skippy in the headlights, where you are like that stunned mullet that just, it's too hard, I can't do it, I won't do it. But, you know, Mars really likes what Saturn has to offer. So it's, you know, embracing your inner Saturn depending on your mood. Now, I often will just default sometimes to training and the gym, and, you know, it's always sometimes the things that you least want to do, whether it's lift that heavy weight in the gym or go for a walk or finish that assignment, wherever your procrastination is, get it done and feel that joy or that relief once you've done it. And, you know, you never regret going for that walk and blowing off some steam, or you never regret that gym session, or you never regret finishing that assignment or finishing that thing, because when it's done, it's done. Just get that Saturn in Capricorn dark cloud over your head, just Mars on through it and get it done. So
yeah, because there is a feeling of satisfaction at the end. It's that Saturn, you know, you reap what you sow. So if you put in the good effort and the hard yards now, it's the potential that you can sow at the end of it's much greater.
For sure.
Yeah, I guess I'm seeing this one maybe a little differently, just in the sense that I totally get with Mars and Saturn when they work together, you get that kind of sustained long-term effort. I guess my concern is this opposition with Mars and Saturn does feel a little bit like butting heads or different priorities, you know, pushing you, or if you like grinding you, where it's like, so it does feel like it's going to be a couple of days where there is some angst or some difference of opinion that has to be navigated. And to what you guys are saying, I think at the end of the day, you know, you've got to go through it to kind of help solve it or get the strategy to go around it. But it does feel like it's going to be quite a lot of effort for what will at the time feel like quite a small reward, at least in the immediate kind of end of the week zone, if you like.
Yeah. And it is leading into a full moon early in the next week as well. So there will be that kind of larger than life emotional energy coming up with this as well. That's potential too. So I don't know. I feel like the emotions in this will really be the things that are, it's like Mars in Cancer. It's steamy.
Because won't the moon be in Scorpio at the time this aspect occurs? Let me just have a look here.
Yeah, it will be.
Oh, dang.
Just to make it even spicier.
Just to make it a bit juicier, yeah.
Yep.
So that's probably the low point or the heavy point of the week at least.
I feel like it's one of the heavier points of the year, to be honest, at least the month.
For sure, yeah, definitely a very heavy point. Oh, so we're going to go up from there, I think.
Well, I'm just trying to think because I've done the unthinkable and left my ephemeris in the kitchen. But from memory, I don't know if Mars has opposed Saturn yet since it's been in Capricorn, because the ingress was December 2017.
I'll check mine for you,
Yeah,
Cass.
thank you, because I think it would have been about June 2017 when Mars was last in Cancer.
Yeah, it's highly unlikely that. Yeah, this will be the probably. Yeah, it was your spot on. June, July 2017. So this will probably be the only time, dare I say, that Mars will oppose Saturn in Capricorn.
So this could also be a weekend where, you know, take a mental note of, you know, how you feel, what's going on, because this may give a little bit of a precursor to next month's eclipses.
Yes, that idea of triggering the Cancer-Capricorn axis, Cass, is that where you're going with that?
I'm going there.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep, that whole sitting on the North Node followed up by, Mercury next week will be interesting to see what people are understanding about themselves from this, because there's been so much focus on the South Node, the release point, the Marie Kondo we've been talking about the whole time. So now it's actually a time to look at the other side of that.
Yeah, I think the other side of it needs probably a bit more attention for sure.
I will take Mars and Cancer on the North Node over Mars and Aquarius retrograde on the South Node.
That was bad. That was bad.
Yeah, so I mean, again, as always, look to your Cancer house as to where you can, you know, focus these energies and see what's going on for you there.
I love how we're all doing the Cancer dance around something rather than actually going into it.
Oh, totally true. But it's definitely coming into that juicy mid-year period now. So it's like, you know, shit's getting real. It's definitely kind of, it's happening. So and brace yourselves.
That analogy you used, Cass, about choosing what cuts of meat we put into said grinder.
Mars is about choices, right? All the time.
Absolutely.
For me. Like, so, you know, that playoff with Saturn, it's, you know, like there's that kind of Sun Jupiter at the start of the week. Yes. And then, you know, Mars Saturn might be, maybe I need to kind of refine some of those choices, or, you know, potentially kind of renege on some things or renegotiate as well. Because, I mean, that's a potential there too.
Absolutely.
Well,
I think that's the reality check. Like the running into the wall of Saturn is, I've said, I think that's part of the contrast of this week. At the start of the week, you think you can do it all, you can climb the mountain, you've got everything you need. And at the end of the week, you realize that you weren't as prepared as you thought, or you didn't get as much time, and you will be having to drop people a note and say, I'm really sorry, I said I would and now I can't. So there is going to be a lot of that, I think, towards the end of the week.
Yeah, it's like when you're climbing the mountain and you think you've reached the top and you get there and you realize the peak's like another 200 meters up and you're like, holy hell, really? Do I have to keep doing this? But you do. You just do.
Yeah. And that's, the Mars Saturn piece is just, 1 foot in front of the other, just like zoning out in a way when you're running a marathon, just sort of don't think about what your legs are doing, think about other things. So,
yeah. Talking about zoning out, I think you had something as well, Kel, to talk about, didn't you?
Yeah, the aspect that I had my eye on, totally different vibe. Jupiter square Neptune, which is happening Sunday the 16th in Canada and the States, which might actually be Monday the 17th for you guys in Australia.
Yeah, it is.
So this is kind of like the biggest outer planet aspect or pairing for 2019. This is actually the second, I believe, square between Jupiter and Neptune. We had one back in January, and we're going to have another one I think in September. So it's a little bit more subtle. It's not an in-your-face kind of aspect, but it is maybe an in-your-soul kind of vibe, because Jupiter in Sag, square Neptune in Pisces, both of these planets have a lot to do with our imagination and to do with that idea of craving inspiration, craving that feeling of like being a little bit fulfilled. So looking for a bit more meaning or purpose. And I think the square between Jupiter and Sag and Neptune in Pisces, this probably speaks a little bit to the idea of a disappointment, something not quite measuring up to your expectations, not like, oh my God, devastating, type of thing, but more, this wasn't what I expected, and how might I go about things differently to get closer to what it is that you're actually after. So a lot there around imagination, inspiration, a little bit of tension between something that's like purely a felt or intuitive thing versus something that you've kind of believed to be true. And it's sort of grappling with some of those nuances, if you like, around perspective and around point of view. So it's going to be very conceptual, very big picture as we get into the weekend.
And I think the moon's in Sag at the same time, isn't it? So that's kind of highlighting that Jupiterian energy as well, that big, let's find the truth of this, let's see what's happening. And then Neptune's like tugging on the strings going, yeah, but what are you feeling? What's going on inside?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, having the moon there is definitely going to make it seem bigger and more expansive, which, it already is so big and expansive. So it's just a lot of that visioning, I guess.
Listening to both sides of it as well.
Yeah. Have you had any thoughts on this one, Cass?
Yeah, I have. I sort of always can't, the square aspect sort of prompts me to think what you believe to be true versus what somebody else's fantasy or ideal or vision is. And maybe that there is potentially a misalignment or a conflict there. But I don't think it's kind of terminal in any way. It's both sort of Jupiter ruled stuff here. So, but yeah, it's just kind of like, beliefs, ideals, opinions, and that type of thing. So probably a little bit more of a background influence, in the thick of everything else that's going on. But definitely this sort of, maybe some more conceptual shifts about meaning, purpose, vision, direction in amongst the minutiae or the other stuff that's kind of, well, not that it's minutiae, but more the practical realities of what's going on. We've got the Sun, Jupiter, Mars, Saturn, the kind of, the more real stuff. And then this stuff playing in the background, it's like, well, what's the meaning and the purpose of, all this hard work, and what am I doing it for, and where am I going with it all? It might kind of prompt some more of those existential questions around the whole Mars, Saturn, Cancer, Capricorn stuff that's going on right now.
Yeah, for sure. Just taking it up to that kind of bigger level. I think it can also help with some of the context of the daily sort of juggle struggle that could be a little bit intense with that Mars Saturn.
It's just, that little bit of realigning your vision, your purpose, what's the meaning of it all? And if I'm, working like a dog Monday to Friday, living for the weekend, but barely getting by, is that really what you want to be doing, And that might kind of cause some tension around your choices and what you really want versus where you're at. And maybe just kind of like shifting the dial a little bit to align with what, I've just watched the Pokemon movie with my son. So what you feel in your jellies, as they said in that, it was just
oh my God, so
but
cute.
It was like, that kind of, in your waters, like with the Neptune being the big kahuna in this piece. So aligning with all of that stuff too.
For sure. So I don't know, Alicia, did you have any thoughts on this one to throw in? Any extras?
Not really beyond what you were saying, but by what I was saying earlier. I just think that it's tricky because you've got the Jupiter vision, the Jupiter plans, the Jupiter ideals, and then you've got the Neptunian ones. So it's like trying to bring the two together, and the Neptune ones are still really vague, but maybe it's the things that were coming up in March with all of that Mercury visiting over this Pisces place, thinking about what was going on in March and what is that actually informing about at the moment, to get clearer on that Neptune piece and understanding the potentials that you might be trying to connect to there. I'm still trying to get my words out around this. I always find Neptune so vague. So, but it's those places where there are no boundaries, and I just feel like it's even, Jupiter it wants to expand anyway, so it's like the boundaries are totally being taken off, like the skin of the balloon is just dissolving and letting all the goodness out. So in a way, we do need to find containment. We do need to find a way to not totally dissolve, so our big juicy Jupiter plans disperse into nothing, if that makes sense. So that would be... But I think it's interesting. We bookend this week with the energy of both. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with this week.
Yeah, a big part with Jupiter is integrating, isn't it? It's like bringing all these pieces together in a workable philosophy or a workable vision or a workable thing. And, the square aspect might be the invitation to do that. How can I bring all these different ideals and visions and that like bigger stuff, the Neptune, the intangibles, into something that's kind of a little bit more tangible, and integrating that in some way. That disseminating
that I always put with Sagittarius as well. How can we disseminate that in a way that others can understand? Because sometimes it is really hard to put words on what is beyond the veil, what is higher. You can't put words on that stuff because it is without form. So maybe the tension in this piece will actually allow us to give some kind of verbalization to it.
For sure. So a bit of a mixed bag week, really, overall.
Mm-hmm. True that.
But good that we've got both areas being highlighted at once in a way.
It's a bit of balance there in a way, hey?
Yeah.
Definitely.
And Saturn in the mix, so...
Yeah, it's a week of oppositions, a week of finding balance.
That sounds great. Perfect summary.
We're all vagued out.
Yeah. So I feel like, we've come to the end of the week. So
what's going on this week for you gals? What's happening, Cass? You back from
No,
US
this
yet?
weekend I am teaching for the San Diego Astrological Society. So getting my Mars Saturn on down for them on the Friday evening and the Saturday evening. So I believe they usually meet on a Saturday afternoon, but something with venue booking. So it's Saturday evening. So we'll have a bit of a pre-dinner thing before that, which will be fun. And then on the Sunday evening, under the Jupiter-Neptune vibe, I'll be Jupiter-Neptuning it across the Pacific back home. So,
Oh, yay!
yay!
You're
I
coming
know.
home.
Get to cuddle my baby once again. So that will be amazing. So, yeah. Sayonara,
you, Cal?
US. Until next time.
Yeah, you'll be saying some sad goodbyes, but excited to be coming home too.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice. Yeah, so I'll be starting to teach my next online class, an intro to traditional astrology. So this course is really designed for people who already are familiar with astrology. So you might have already taken some classes, maybe in modern or different styles of astrology, and you're wanting to kind of understand what are these traditional ideas and concepts. So we're going to go through some of the core main concepts like sect, whole sign houses, planetary condition, just to give you an idea about how you might approach your chart from a traditional perspective. So you'll get a fresh take on your chart. You may decide that you love it, and you may decide it's great info, but you're happy with the way you go. But I do think it's always good to get informed about things. So it's a 3-part class starting actually Monday, June 10th. So we'll be running through to the end of the month. What about you, Leash? What do you have coming up?
So that week I'm actually launching a new 7-week course. It's not astrology, it's personal development, but this is all about trying to break those patterns, those hidden voices, those hidden drives that, sometimes you just find yourself doing something and no matter what you do, you continue doing it and you get really frustrated with yourself. Well, this is about diving deep, examining that, but also putting in place practical solutions to be able to let go of it all. So, that will be starting at the beginning of July, but I will be opening up spaces for that. So pop along to my website to have a look.
Fantastic.
Cool.
So, that is the astrology of that week. And thanks everyone for listening. Please press subscribe if you liked what you hear, either on YouTube or on whatever beautiful sound app you can listen to us through. And feel free to share with your friends because you never know who might be getting some benefits from all the juicy stuff that we offer. So thanks again, everyone. Thanks, gals.
Bye.
Bye.
See you later.